My lord Novelette, I apologize for disrespecting you last week. Guys, Mulanni got absolutely gutted. What the heck? Hoyoverse really woke up and decided to commit terrorism on the Mulanni gang, man. Why did they do this? So, what changed and how good is she now? Let's figure it out. But before I move on, I want to talk to you about this beautiful piece of gadget that is almost as big as my entire head. For the past 2 weeks, I've been trying the new Red Magic 9S Pro, and I want to thank Red Magic for sending it to me and sponsoring this video. Even excluding the sponsored part though, this phone has become my go-to mobile device for everything regarding gaming, movie watching, or even just social navigating because of the fantastic features it has for these purposes. For starters, the technical sides of it will put many computers to shame, as it comes with an overclocked version of the Snapdragon 8 Generation 3, which topped the Antutu scores for the best performing CPU out of any mobile phone at the moment. Furthermore, it comes with 16GB of RAM, a giant battery of 6500 mAh that can last for days, and a beautiful Full HD screen whose size is just perfect to watch movies on a bed. This phone honestly motivated me to play Genshin on a device that wasn't my computer, something I really never did before. The volume is also great, which is very important for Genshin specifically, and something that surprised me is that the phone touchscreen has an incredibly quick response rate. Poor response rate is something that bugged me when I played Genshin on my previous phones, so this was a big plus. So I definitely recommend you this phone if you have the same nerdy interests that I have, and you can also check it out through the link in the description below if you want to buy it. First of all, a bit of context. As I told you last week, Mulanni is a Hydro main DPS that deals the vast majority of her damage through normal attacks during her elemental skill. During her rotations, she can gain stacks for these normal attacks by surfing through opponents with her Shark board. These stacks can go up to 3 and increase her multipliers significantly, especially the third stack. For this reason, when it came to her combos, I saw it as efficient to just get maximum stacks every time before a normal attack, rather than using more non-full stack normal attacks. These multipliers are the main thing that changed this week, as every stack increase got nerfed except the third one, which got higher as compensation. Still, her total damage got significantly lower at every stack level, and specifically at 3 stacks it's about 13% worse. By itself, this isn't too bad, especially considering how powerful she was last week, but of course the bad news aren't over just yet. Mulanni has a mechanic that allows her full stack normal attacks to deal a portion of the original damage to targets other than the primary one. This is the one thing that made her AoE potential pretty good originally, so it's quite important. With the current update though, the portion of the damage dealt to each additional enemy got decreased by a bit as a baseline, but most importantly, since the normal attack damage is now significantly lower, then the AoE damage proportionally got much lower as well. It's still looking decent overall, but considering that her main comparison in the Hydro main DPS niche is Novelette, a guy that can deal all of his damage to all of the targets in the room consistently, any nerf in this sense is really not that easy to digest. The third nerf, yeah, there was a third nerf, was less significant at a glance, but still pretty harmful potentially. Through her passive, Mulanni basically gets a duration extension of her elemental skill, which normally just lasts for 6 seconds. This extension is what potentially allowed her to get a third normal attack off instead of just 2 in her rotations, so it's quite the thing. With this update, the extension got slightly nerfed, and while it's not to a point where it's impossible to get a third normal attack off from what I've seen, the window now got tighter, so it's very possible that you won't be able to. Enough said that the difference in her damage between doing 3 normal attacks and just 2 is nothing to laugh about. Still, the third normal attack wouldn't be a full stack one either way due to timing issues in her windows, and with the current update nerfing the lower stack ones more than the full stack one, it's not that big of a loss if you can get that out, I guess. But combined with the rest of the nerfs, I can see why people might get angry at this one too. Overall, the decrease Mulanni received in single target situations amounts to more than 20% in terms of smaller damage output, and in AoE situations it goes even higher. While this can sort of make sense in a way, because her output was looking incredibly above any other character in the game last week, to me it made sense that she had such potential because of how clunky she looks to play with the whole surfing through opponents and everything else. I honestly think the nerf she received is a bit too much when you think of her playstyle, and so I wouldn't be surprised if she gets buffed a bit in the future updates, but alas, this is all we have at the moment. Now let's look at her updated team situation, but first let me remind you that if you enjoy my content but you haven't subbed yet, please consider doing so because it really makes me notice your support. So before I show you the team calculations, a few notes on what will have changed regardless of the nerfs. Last week, as a weapon for her calcs, I used Prototype Amber, which made sense because she's an HP scaling unit and this is a pretty standard option. However, she has two options that are considerably better in all of her teams, specifically the new Nathan Craftable that gives HP % bonuses and also normal attack damage bonuses, and Wadeset for Vape teams in particular, since in those scenarios the elemental mastery buffs become really valuable. Second, with more confirmations about her cooldowns, I would have adjusted down her rotation timings, which would have brought the damage down anyway. So regarding her new damage output, obviously it's not looking quite as impressive as it was last week. On Mono Hydro teams with no amplifying reactions for her, she's not really looking on new bullets levels anymore. Last week she could compete or beat him at equal investment, something really astounding considering the Mono Hydro teams are new bullets best while they're not in Mulaney's case, but again, it seemed numerically sensible to me because of how many gameplay advantages Numolet has compared to her. For Vape, it's looking better, and depending on the team, her own output can still reach levels where it's looking like the damage ceiling of the game relative to what a main carry can do. But we're not at the level where we were last week, where she could almost reach 2 million damage per rotation with her signature weapon. As a result, her team's DPS really went down significantly, all things considered. For the Mono Hydro teams, they're unimpressive enough that I would say Hoyoverse is really hammering down the fact that this character relies on amplifying reactions, so Vape teams to succeed. Of course, she can still be played here anyway, because of how strong Hydro-centered setups can be with Furina, but it's nothing you won't get at similar levels through other options, or better through Novolette specifically. For Vape teams, her outlook at free-to-play investment is looking on the same level as other high-tiers damage dealers, numerically speaking. This team's damage can vary a lot depending on the assumptions you make. For example, you can play short 20 seconds rotation teams with just one elemental skill window for Mulaney, which are better than others in terms of DPS, but with Xiangling being as problematic as she is energy requirements wise, it might not be up everybody's alleys. Still, it's not something that's impossible to manage through energy heavy setups. The alternative, obviously, are longer rotations that make her energy requirements easier to manage. With Furina on team, the Vapes become kinda inconsistent for about every character on the team, and based on the footage I've seen, Mulaney will be vaping half or less of her attacks, but overall pretty good still. Alternatively, you can make more Mulaney-centric compositions through burning setups with Emily or Nahida. Emily's are seemingly better in terms of damage output, but with her dropping just 3 weeks before Mulaney, I honestly feel kind of absurd recommending this team. As a side note, she's not really powerful enough that she can carry the meme teams I showed you last week anymore. It was a good dream to have an overpowered composition using Candace as a flex slot, but it's not quite as strong anymore, sadly. So, Mulaney is human after all, I guess. In my Kinich first impression videos, I told you that Kinich was looking weaker than Mulaney in terms of numbers, but better in terms of quality of life, while now they look kinda even, I would say. Luckily, Hoyover's Sadim touch didn't reach him as well. And with this, I'm done for today. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe and also go check the Kinich first impression video I made a week ago. Bye bye.